this. I don't know how to fix that. How do you unwind societal like hysteria?
War.
Is that how you do it?
I think
Does it calm everybody down and make everybody nice to each other?
Well, I think one side has to win.
Oh, hopefully the calm side.
You're hanging out in the House of Sunny podcast, where it's always sunny, mostly because of your host, comedian and YouTuber, Sunny Loman. Want to know what Sunny and her friends are thinking about this week? Well, here she is, Sunny Loman.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the House of Sunny podcast. I'm here once again with Doug of The Rational Capitalist. What's going on, Doug?
Hello, Sunny. How are you today?
I'm good, as you can
Good
see.
to hear.
I got the Aurora Borealis
Northern
behind
Lights.
me.
Very beautiful. Nice.
Oh, you're talking about me? Oh, thanks.
No, I was talking about the lights.
Oh, okay. Today we're going to talk about Kanye West, who actually we got kind of a lot of, it's just culture news today, although some of it is political. There's a lot going on in the culture right now. Big shifts, you guys, and hopefully not too late. But anyway, Kanye West, big stir with him. And he got together with Candace Owens and created a big, crazy fuss. And then we'll talk about Elon Musk and his peace plan and his takeover of Twitter. So that's the show today. We're going to get started with Kanye. I think I'm just going to get started with showing you. I don't know. This is like a story. I have to somehow weave this story because it was nuts. Everything that's been going on with Kanye, so much.
I know nothing about this, so you're going to educate me.
Yeah, I'm going to educate
Kanye.
you while I'm educating everybody else about what happened. Okay. So it's Paris Fashion Week, and Kanye West has his own fashion show. So before he did his show, though, he opened. It's funny that I follow this stuff. So day one of my Kanye week, he opened the Balenciaga Summer 23 collection. So this is Kanye. He was the first one out. He was a model for Balenciaga. And I have a couple of things I want to say about this, but first just watch. Can you hear this, Doug?
Is he in hell?
Can you hear this, Doug?
No, I can't hear it.
Okay, let me back up. I forgot to share my sound like I do. When will I learn how to use this stupid technology? I need a producer. All right. Here's the show. Where is
now
he?
I can hear.
Is he on Mars? Balenciaga did a show where the runway was in dirt and mud. He's just walking.
He's ready for battle.
He's walking through mud puddles. The landscape is just mud piles. There's no, this is the future. I feel like people.
What's in his pocket?
Yeah, he's wearing an all black, what looks like soldierish kind of outfit, a big, huge jacket with lots of pockets, leather pants. All the models walked through this mud. Lots of black.
What? Looks like a zombie.
Why do they look like they are? I think they're all wearing Balenciaga. Those teeth. I'm exposing my nerdiness by not knowing the name of those. Oh, grills. The grills, that people wear. It says Balenciaga, so it looks like their mouths are like open and just dark, like dark holes, like some kind of creepy zombie.
Yeah, it looks like the black and white store got taken over by zombies.
I think they were told to look angry. You think maybe?
Oh, I think they are angry.
And all the outfits are
They
very
look inhuman.
All the outfits are very puffy and large, so you can't really tell if it's a man or a woman. It's very androgynous. Anyway, Kanye walks that, and I had seen shots from the show, and there's the thing with modern culture, the dark side. There's two sides now, right? There's the dark side and the light side, and we're living under the dark side. And the dark side for some reason, seems to want death, destruction, mud puddles. Like they feel like that would give their life meaning if they could only live in a war zone, like
Yeah. This
they
is like the Darth Vader collection.
do you remember when we were kids and the whole Cold War was going on and there were all these movies about the day after and like these
Hmm.
horror show movies about the apocalypse and how the earth would be wrecked and life would be hard and people would be starving and there'd only be like a few humans left and I used to be
Sounds like
obsessed with
that's
those
actually kind of what
shows.
happened.
That is their dream. Like I was worried. I don't want that to happen. We've got to like save humanity. They have the opposite idea. Oh yeah, that looks really good. If because everything I'm seeing that's so beautiful is driving me crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to tear down the beautiful.
How do you
That
have that
hellscape.
mentality?
That hellscape actually looks kind of cool.
Yeah, there are no crops there. I'll die within a few days, but
Crops, they don't think of that. They just figure they'll go to like Starbucks or something.
right.
There'll be Starbucks in
it
hell.
it's a disconnect from any suffering that would make a person be okay with this. That's number one. But however, you sent me that thing about the psychology of the postmodernist by Stephen Hicks, and I haven't listened to the whole thing, but I want to. I listened to the first 5 minutes, and it just speaks about this like resentment, this envy and resentment that just manifests in a nihilism of just an emotional nihilism. So that's probably what we're dealing with. So anyway, but Kanye starts his show with that. And then the next day he does his own show and wears a White Lives Matter t-shirt with Candace Owens.
Wow.
So that is crazy because Black people don't do that, right? I'm going to share the screen here. Read this story. Okay.
How did they get those mud puddles in there and that
Yeah.
dirt and stuff into the show?
Buckets,
Someone put that together.
bulldozer.
Amazing.
I don't even know how to. That's although it made headlines.
Yeah, it's a spectacle.
Okay. Kanye West wore a black t-shirt with White Lives Matter emblazoned on the back of his latest Yeezy fashion show. West appeared Monday at the fashion show in Paris. The rapper debuted his season 9 collection. Conservative commentator Candace Owens shared a photo of herself wearing the same t-shirt, standing next to West in his White Lives Matter t-shirt. So here's them together.
Wow. They're not a couple though, right?
No. She's married, just had her second baby.
Okay.
She's super conservative. I mean, she goes on her show. She's always talking about how
Yeah, I love
all
her.
these women. She said the funniest thing about who's that woman's name? Her name is like Emily Ratajkowski or something. And she said the other day about her, I feel like I've had sex with her. Every time I see a picture of her boobs are in my face. She's so great. Anyway, so he does this, and you can imagine everybody had to comment on this and flip out. The thing I think about Kanye is that he is a taste maker. He is not a follower. He sets trends. He's not a trend follower. Or, I mean, he may follow, like he can sense where things are going and he goes there first. He's definitely a person at the very front. He's always been like that. And maybe he is sensing that the culture is and is turning conservative, but it's also that he had children and became more conservative and was worried about their future and worried about their morality and became kind of more religious, or at least overtly he became more religious. And I think the reason he ended up divorcing Kim, I think she couldn't deal with his change. She couldn't deal with him growing from having a family. But also, someone like Kanye does not stay the same. He doesn't keep doing the same thing. He keeps innovating and he keeps moving forward. I think he sees that this is where society is going and he's going to go there first. And he is going to make people follow him. People will follow him. He just does not back down. He has been getting crap ever since he put that red hat on and met with Trump. He's been getting a lot of crap from Black people and white people, but forget them. From Black people saying, that he's betraying his race and stuff like that. And so what does he do? He comes out with a White Lives Matter t-shirt.
It's great.
So he gets tons of crap. And then he, let's see, what does he say? He says he gets crap from like Bella Hadid, who's a model. So he posts a picture of her in this white dress from the Paris fashion show, and he photoshops White Lives Matters onto her dress. He doesn't. And then he says stuff to them like, oh, I'm immoral. Where were you when, and he starts listing things that people did that were immoral that they didn't say anything about, like that did way worse stuff than just wearing a t-shirt or. And he says, everyone knows, he then Insta stories, everyone knows that Black Lives Matter was a scam. Now it's over. You're welcome.
Wow. Whoa. Oh.
Isn't that terrific?
Man, that's amazing.
So I think
You're
it's really
welcome.
good. Everyone knows that Black Lives Matter was a scam. Now it's over. You're welcome. That's what Kanye said to his critics about the White Lives Matters t-shirt.
Yeah,
So, I mean, the
that's a signal.
guy, I think he's right. That's it. It's over. And thank you, Kanye, for doing that.
Yeah.
I don't obviously agree with everything that Kanye West says or does. I don't think I would want to.
You don't need to.
Right. And I
That's the
hate to
point.
even say that or qualify that.
That's the
We
point.
have to right now grab onto anyone who's fighting this, anyone who's even fighting the idea that everyone needs to have the same opinion is the enemy. I'm
Right.
sorry. Anyone fighting that idea is an ally to me, because I don't really care if I disagree with people. I've always lived in a world where people disagreed. You don't live in America and expect everyone to agree with you. That's not the way it's ever been. And that's the way this country is supposed to be, is that we can disagree. And so the fact that he's just pushing that, I feel like that is what happens when someone does something like this. That's what he's fighting against.
Yeah.
His message is, I don't have to think like you want me to think. I'm going to do exactly the opposite. I don't care how much you scream and yell about it. I'm going to show people that you can disagree and you can do other things and still be cool and still be okay and not be canceled, because I'm not cancelable. I'm too cool for that. And and also he doesn't give a shit. So that's the message.
Great point.
And that allows people to disagree with him, but also disagree with the establishment. I mean, right? So maybe they're atheists. Maybe they would rather be not on the right. Like I guess he's on the right. I don't really think he's on the right, but he's definitely not on the old right. He's on some
classical
sort of
liberal.
Is he though? I think he might be a socialist, with some libertarian leanings, but whatever. He's giving Black people permission to break from what they are expected to think and believe. And he's saying, Black people, you don't have to toe the line. You don't have to be afraid. I'll lead. And you can just, follow in my shadow and do what you want to do and think how you want to think.
Yeah. Think for yourself.
Think for yourself. He's not saying think like me. He's saying think for yourself. And I know that, and he said that explicitly too. A lot of what he says when he's in interviews and talking is, everybody is in this brainwashed place. You're insecure. And so you buy things and you give into the marketing and you follow the whatever they tell you to think. and it's insecurity, and people have to stop, and I'm not going to do that. I'm going to think for myself, and I do my own thing, and that's what his message always is.
You know what
So
the peak of that might be when remember when Biden said, if you don't vote for me, you're really not black?
yeah, an old white
What
man
what an
said,
insult. I
yeah,
mean, I can't imagine like being black and saying, oh, yeah, like that, like any independent minded person would recoil at hearing something like that. It's so racist, and like it categorizes and imposes a certain set of political viewpoints on someone based on their race. And what he's doing is fantastic. Just the symbol of someone who's saying, nope, I'm not going to a
honestly,
herd follower.
I'm 100% sure that's why he did it. I'm 100% because he's made all these statements before. But then people have said, why are you doing this? Why are you saying this? And he said, well, they do. White lives do matter. And so that was his last message, was on his Insta story, was, people are asking me why I said this, because I have one answer: they do. But
Brilliant.
I also think that the reason he did it is to break away significantly from what he's told to think. And also it's publicity, right? He's doing his show, so he knows he's going to get headlines for his show and but I guess you could argue a lot of it's negative publicity. A lot of people aren't going to buy his stuff. He had models drop out of his show who wouldn't be a part of it. Notably, Will Smith's daughter. I think it was his daughter or his son. It might have been Jaden was supposed to walk in his show, and he backed out. So,
well, it shows you that intellectual liberation is now provocative, like thinking for yourself and being free and saying something as simple, a simple truth
yeah.
like white lives matter.
Do you know what's so funny about
the
that?
vanguard
It's
of
the vanguard.
intellectualism.
But it's what's needed. I mean, when the president is like, if you don't agree with me, you're not really black. Also, you don't believe in democracy. Also, you're a white supremacist. Also, you're
You're a
labeled
terrorist. Yeah.
if you don't agree with the Democrat Party's current thing. And that is exactly how the left acts. So anybody breaking away from that is an ally. It's all about free speech right now, because we've always been a country where people disagree. I'm on the same side right now with anyone who is a free speech pusher, and that's why I like Trump. Trump comes down the escalator and says, immigrants, go home, which was totally something you don't say. You don't say that. Otherwise, you're a racist, and everybody agrees. Well, Trump just comes out and says that. And then when someone says, fuck you, he goes, that wall just got 10 feet taller. The wall he's going to build. He didn't back down. He doubled down. And that's the same thing that Kanye West does. And it allows other people who are a little less brave, but still brave, permission to step forward and be independent and be individuals too. And then you end up, it's like that thing that they say, okay, the first person, that's like takes a lot of strength and courage. The first person, then you get one or two more people. That's also hard. And at a certain point, you get critical mass, and this mass of people follow. And I mean, we're headed there. When someone like Kanye West does this, and he did get some support from Black people, and you have someone like Candace Owens, who's also unabashedly a free thinker. She was the only person I think, white or Black, that I saw on the internet saying, George Floyd is a criminal. Why are you guys like, what? She was the first person to say this is not a Black hero. And she got so much crap for that. And so two very independent individuals here, Trump. I mean, all of these people I admire. I don't really care what their politics are at the end of the day. This is the battle. It's about getting America's cultural respect for free speech back. When we were growing up, that was just normal. Remember? I mean,
yeah.
First of all, racial humor was normal and fun, and everybody participated in it, and every race was subject to it. And you could laugh at jokes directed at your skin color. It was funny. Everybody thought it was funny.
But at that time too, the cool people were against the fuddy-duddies. It was like
Yes.
the culture. What remember like the movie Footloose or something like the censors and like the puritanical moralists and stuff like that. They were all like the fuddy-duddy, stuffy, old-fashioned people that you're rebelling against, and the cool kids want to dance, and like want to be free and think and everything else. And now it's the exact opposite. The left made um, it fashionable to actually hate and persecute people who believe in free speech and made it cool or fashionable to literally be against free speech. And
Can you believe that they've made it
it's
cool to
crazy.
be compliant and robotic and
Well, what it tells you,
afraid of talking out and saying the wrong thing and misgendering someone and dead naming someone and like, oh, did I say the wrong thing about COVID? I mean, they've made it, all these young people are comfortable with that level of self-censoring and they think it's the right thing to do. It's such an inversion of the culture that we grew up in, which wasn't that long ago. It wasn't that long ago that I was in my 20s and it was still okay to make racial jokes and to have and you could go, like when I was in college, you could go set up your table in a student union and people would come over and debate ideas with you from the complete opposite political spectrum and they would talk to you. They weren't screaming at you. I mean, there was some of that, but
I a little bit disagree with that, but because I think that's one thing. I mean, I think in the late 80s, early 90s, like I remember we were part of like a philosophy club and we had like some leftists actually come into our meeting and like take stuff and
yeah,
like just steal it and want to fight kind of. And
yeah,
like that was, I think that's always been a part of the left. I think one of the things that we have
yes,
to
but it
realize,
wasn't. It was like that was a fringe group doing that. Now it's like 80% of the student body. You know what I mean? Like it's different than it was.
yeah,
There were groups that would come and attack you and tear your posters down and show up to heckle your speakers or whatever, but the heckling was like one or two people. Now you have a mob banging on the doors and coming
yeah,
in with megaphones and making noise so that the speaker can't speak. It's just a whole other level of you know it's just different. I feel like in general in the culture, it was still safe and okay to speak your mind. So, but today on campus, if you speak your mind, if I set up a booth today on any college campus with, like we did in the day, and I was just like by myself, I would be in danger, even in the middle of the day.
mm-hmm.
So it's rapidly changed. I mean, I'm not young, but was that so long ago, Doug? Am I just like, oh, okay, Sonny, that actually was a long time ago.
Yeah, it's longer than we think.
Right. Anyway, so I hope that we can slowly get back there culturally and avoid what we were talking about before we started the show, which is like, how do we get back to a society where people can actually disagree, be civil? This hysteria and this emotionalism and anger is so intense right now. Um, and I said to you before the show, I said, what could change it? And you're like, war. I mean, that's definitely one way. I hope that it's instead in America. I hope it's Kanye West and Trump and Candace and people like him. And Kanye got support. People came out and supported him. So a lot of people didn't. And then he very, very intelligently mocked them. He mocked Gigi Hadid with that Photoshop Black Lives Matters. And then he also said stuff like, where were you when all this bad shit was happening? Where were you defending morality,
I
And she wasn't.
I think one like maybe interesting point here is that while we would go back to like the 80s or the 90s and say, oh, the culture was healthier then. There's always been a tension, even in the United States, between groups or movements that want ideological conformity and
Yeah,
control.
right.
I
And
mean, you go
sometimes
back
it's the
to,
right, I guess. Sometimes it has been in the past. Prohibition, there's been the Christian right, things like that.
yeah, like from the Puritan colonists through the Second Great Awakening, through the progressive movement of the turn of the century, the turn of the 20th century,
Yeah.
with prohibition and um, progressivism at that time it's always.
Uh-oh, we lost you, Doug. I don't know if this is my Wi-Fi or his Wi-Fi, but now we have a frozen Doug to look at for a few seconds. Oh, we just
Ideological.
lost you for like 30 seconds.
Oh,
I'm sure whatever you were saying was brilliant.
it was great. It was the most amazing thing. It was the secret actually to
Oh,
life. So
oh well, let's
I
move
gotta
on.
run now. Yeah, let's go.
Well, next topic. No, you were just saying that it's happened throughout history, and I guess we've survived it, the country.
Yeah, there's waves of ideological purists who are trying to enforce their intellectual orthodoxy on everybody else, and that there's been a trend towards that through the Puritans, the Puritan colonists, and through the 19th century progressivism, that wanted to force everyone to go to public school and learn religion and learn, this is the way, this is the right way to think. And um, there's ideological pressure and conformity all throughout. I mean, so you have these waves of this coming through, and now I think what's different, a little bit different maybe about this one, is that they at root are saying they've kind of changed the rules of the game. It's not like, oh, we want you to think this, and someone else says we want you to think that. They're basically saying, like, you're subhuman to disagree with us.
Is that new?
Maybe not. Maybe I think
experience.
epistemologically, maybe it is. In that they're saying that they're not like saying, oh, God has told us this is the way. I mean, in some sense they are, but they're saying no, like language, like there's no way to think anymore. There's no way to even objectively think about standards are good and bad and have a civil disagreement, since like the whole human ability to conceptualize and think and debate and reason with one another, that's kind of like gone. So now we're just going to be at each other's throats as a matter of principle. And that's all that's left. That's like the postmodern apocalypse is all we can do is fight with one another and assert things.
Yes,
fight.
I see what you're saying, but so like Salem witches would also be an example of that. So would some of the late 60s activism, where it just became mobs and sit-ins and physical force.
Yep.
Was kind of the way that they conducted themselves. And they really radically changed society. Imagine being in 1965 and then 75,
Yeah.
and just that little short span, you went from conservative society, very civil conservative society, where women, women still, like, if you got pregnant, you got married.
Right.
The man married you. And now, and 10 years later, it was just free sex, sluttiness, and all kinds of divorce, and kids don't matter anymore. This kind of free wheeling, selfish self-absorption amongst the people who lived in that time, those hippies. And culturally, it spread culturally.
So I guess my point was just that we always have to fight for freedom. And
yeah,
they're like, this is a constant recurring theme in human history that, we're never going to be at the point like, well, we're safe now.
Yeah, we can relax.
Okay.
We've got just the right laws that we don't have to worry about it. We've got just the right system. I mean, in some ways, the founders did give us a really good system. but it kind of has eroded over time and pretty quickly, like you've said in past podcasts, pretty
Mhm.
quickly there were problems. And even just 60 years later, there was the Civil War over not states' rights, you know? So it's
Yeah.
like, wait, that was only 60 years. And people were willing
Yeah.
to die for that idea, fight and die for that idea. So, yeah,
So
you
we always
always
have to
have to
fight.
fight. You always have to fight. And I think that's actually kind of an encouraging idea that it's not, we're not so special that we're living through this crazy time, and to have hope, because in the past, people have fought through this shit before and come out the other side with a better society, because you kind of maybe have to always trim the fat. You know, maybe there's a certain amount of idea fat you have to trim every so often in a culture.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Maybe
think
it
that's
isn't the
right.
fall of Rome. Maybe this is just societal waves of what happens. And if we could get back more states' rights and more local control and culturally start pressing against this fascism that we're living under, then maybe we can just scale back the whole size of government, and culturally it would become a real negative if you were going to do something that would shut down another person's right to have a thought that you don't agree with.
Yeah, you can't have law, like laws are always subject to the cultural, because as we've seen, um, you can have a great system and great laws, and you can say Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of, the freedom of
Right.
speech. You can have that in kind of like
Well,
black
we
and
won't
white.
make a law, but we'll just
Well,
write a
yeah,
little
but
email to Mark
if
Zuckerberg
you
and
offend me and you hurt my feelings, that's a little different. So you're always going to have, um, if the culture is not healthy, which it's not,
yeah.
it always translates into force, because when people can't agree, then they're going to force everyone else to do what they want, and they don't want to.
And
They
that
can't
goes
make
for
an
us,
argument.
by the way. I don't agree that drag queens should be exposing themselves to little kids. And I'm going to force people not to do that anymore. Like, I'm for that. um as at least in my country, I can or my community, I can only do. This is the other thing though too. People are way too concerned about other people's business. And in America, we really have to push this mind your own business idea again, because I really only want to mind the business in my own community. That's the thing I can deal with and control and be a part of. That's where my own children are affected. I can't control what the kids in Minnesota are going to see, and nor should I. I mean, right?
Yeah,
And in terms of school, imagine if we didn't have any public schooling. It's almost become this idea that if kids don't go to school, they're abused. And it's that equality and equity idea, I think, from the start. Who are we to say what a parent should do with their child in terms of educating them? I don't think that's our business.
well, it's funny because like public education was an idea, that came out of like the Puritan colonies and stuff like that. It was, we're going to force every kid to have to go to public school and learn the right way, the ways of God and everything else. So
Yes.
those ideas, like progressivism and everything else,
They're
really
very
came out of that.
totalitarian
Oh
ideas.
yeah, absolutely.
And it's
And now the
nice when a
left,
community gets together and hires a teacher to come in and teach a bunch of kids in the church during the day. That's fine. And any kid can go or whatever, and the families with more money, or they all chip in to pay the teacher's salary. That's the way it used to be. The little Laura Ingalls model schoolhouse model,
right, right.
for most kids. And then if you had more money, I guess you got private tutors and stuff. But um yeah, anyway, I just, like, I really long for a simpler time. There's so much, the
You leave us
fight
alone.
feels too big.
I
Yeah.
think that's the mantra here, is like leave us alone.
Leave us alone,
Um,
mind your own business. But we have to do that too. We can't be foretelling other people what to do, except our own community. We can try to protect children. And if police do something wrong, violently in Minneapolis, that's not my problem. I don't want to weigh into that. Minneapolis people need to deal with their police and what's going on there. And it doesn't have anything to do with what's going on in my own community with my own police. So,
Right. Yeah, except to the extent that, like, there's some like cultural force that's possessing the entire
yeah,
country or something. So I think we can argue for standards and cultural standards and things like that. But like the fact that we're all hyper up into everybody else's business
yeah.
is like,
I
God,
think
it's
the right
fucking exhausting.
it is exhausting. And I think we're as guilty of it
Oh,
sometimes.
I have friends that
Yeah.
are like tweeting me and texting me like the outrages of the world,
Yes.
like everywhere. And it's like someone in Arizona committed an injustice, it's like,
Yeah.
I know, dude, like just make your
I
own,
think
clean
it's
your closet,
clean your room, clean your own
clean your
room.
room.
I think it's psychologically harmful. The amount of stress you get from trying to care about so much disaster and badness in the world. I live in a really nice town where very little bad happens. It is one of the best places in the world. There are maybe two homeless people and like we know them, like they're just the same two dudes. And all the kids here in my very wealthy community go to public school, which is extraordinary. I've never seen anything like it. So the public schools must be really good. They are teaching social emotional learning though, and we'll get into that anyway.
But
I want
that's
to
the
do a whole
progressive
show on social
mindset,
emotional learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The progressive mindset though is you have to have experts controlling everyone's life and
Yeah.
telling everyone what to do and how to live.
Yeah. Oh no.
And there's
Kids
this
have to go to
model
school.
society.
They have
Yeah.
to, and they have to like prove that they're learning and
learning the ways of
right.
the progressive.
Right. Okay. So that's it on the Kanye thing. It's going to be a continuing story because he's in this big fight and he's also fighting with his ex and that whole family. And I love that part of what's coming out of this is him mocking and ridiculing the Kardashians and pointing out how crappy they're so trashy, those people. And they have this glamour on them that is really just marketing because they're trash. So, too bad Kanye married and had 4 children with a very trashy lady. Anyway,
We all make mistakes.
we all make mistakes. Right. All right. So the next story is, should I go with the other fun one I have real quick before we get into the
Yeah.
Elon Musk stuff? This is so funny. Trump, somebody leaked something about Trump. I don't know if it's true, but okay, I got to go to Twitter. I think it's in my bookmarks. Sorry, I should have had it queued
When
up.
you said someone leaked, I just thought of the P tape when Trump was saying, I'm a germaphobe. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a germaphobe. I would never do the pee. I would never let someone pee on me in bed. I love how he just faces it head on.
Right.
Not like, how dare you? Like he goes into specifics. Like, hey, if you knew me, you'd know I'm a
If you knew me, you would
germaphobe.
know. I would never let a lady pee on me. It's funny. Okay, so this is a story about
President of the
Trump.
United States.
It was in USA Today, so maybe it's true. Trump wanted to reveal
I did hear
Superman shirt after leaving hospital for COVID care, new book says. Can you imagine? He comes out, he survived COVID, he comes out, he pulls open his jacket and he's wearing a Superman t-shirt. That's our president. Oh, why didn't he do that? If he wanted to do that, why didn't he do that? And I gotta say, that whole slogan, let Trump be Trump, that his people had a hard time like enacting. People didn't want Trump to be Trump. That
Right.
would have been the move of the century. Former President Donald Trump wanted to wear a t-shirt with a Superman logo and reveal it after seeking medical care for COVID-19, according to a coming book from New York Times reporter Maggie Haberman. Trump planned to be wheeled out of Walter Reed National Military Medical Center, where he went after testing positive for COVID-19 in 2020, before standing up and opening his button-down shirt to reveal the Superman logo. According to Haberman's book, Axios reported on Haberman's book coverage of the incident, and the Times initially reported calls made about the appearance in 2020. Trump called a campaign aide to purchase the shirts. The New York Times, he was inspired by James Brown, who tossed a cape off on stage. Who talked him out of that?
I hope this is true. I hope this isn't just, them like making something. I mean, because if that's true, I think that's just tremendous that he would have done that.
Oh, he should have done it. I can't. That's the Trump we love,
I love the title of her book, by the way, Confidence Man, The Making of Donald Trump and the Breaking of America. Like,
right.
No one broke America. What broke is the minds of these Trump deranged morons.
Yeah.
Like, they're the ones who broke. Oh my God.
Right. He didn't. Yeah. He just did himself. They broke because he's a Kanye West. He's an independent
he wouldn't listen
thinker.
To them.
And as a result, they lost their minds. So, all right. So Elon Musk, there's two pieces of Elon Musk news. The first is he came out with a poll that caused a huge amount of controversy. This is on Twitter, and he put this out and said, Ukraine, Russia, peace, redo, and then bullet points, redo elections of annexed regions under UN supervision. Russia leaves if that is the will of the people. Number 2, Crimea, formerly part of Russia, as it has been since 1783 until Khrushchev's mistake. Number 3, water supply to Crimea assured. Number 4, Ukraine remains neutral, meaning no NATO, I think, right? Mm-hmm. Poll was 59% no, 40% yes. Okay, that's kind of irrelevant. The point is he came out with this poll. And as a result of this poll, people have just gone nuts. Their brains exploded. And then they started coming at him with how that's wrong about it. And then he did like a revised version. He's like, okay, how about this? And I love what Scott Adams said about it the most. He said, persuasion analysis. Elon Musk took control of the Ukraine-Russia endgame by writing the first draft in bullet form and drawing all attention to it. You just learned one of the most powerful persuasion techniques in the modern world. Write the first draft and keep it simple. Once the Musk peace plan gets in your head where no other peace plan resided, it takes root, and he makes us think past the sale, which is the details, to a peace agreement framework versus full-scale war with Russia. So I'm just going to say that again. There's no peace plan. Nobody's talking peace plan. He comes out with a simple draft, the Musk peace plan. Now that has taken root, and now the conversation is peace. How to get a peace agreement. It's no longer, oh my God, war with Russia, right?
Yeah. Apocalypse. There's no solution.
Right. It's inevitable. Well, is it? Now everybody's arguing about how you get peace. No, you can't do that. You can't have elections. Russia controls the area, blah, blah, blah. Musk also blew the lid off the fantasy that Ukraine and the United States are interested in a negotiated end to the war. It is no longer a war about Ukraine. Now it's about Putin's survival, and Biden's team smells blood. Yeah. And here's a pro tip for watching Musk persuade. If what he does looks dumb to you, the problem is probably on your end. I love that. That's true. I mean, that was really, really genius. He didn't need to be right. He didn't need to come out with the perfect answer. He needed to come out with a peace plan that sounded plausible, that people could pick apart and disagree with. But now everybody's talking peace. And the response from Ukraine and the US proves that they don't want peace. Yeah. So, okay. I just wanted to say that Ukraine, I think this is the article where Ukraine comes out, and that I wanted to say, some Ukrainian official. Yeah, this is it. Just going to get to the quote on this Ukrainian diplomat.
Up above, it said F off.
Yeah, that was right the headline. Above. So I'm trying to get the actual name of the guy who did it.
I saw it up above. That German, he's a Ukrainian diplomat to Germany, right?
Well, I can't find it now. I know it was just up here, but it wasn't. Okay. Fuck off is my very diplomatic reply, tweeted Ukrainian diplomat Andrij Melnik. So that's a Ukrainian diplomat. That's a man with standing who's a diplomat. Aren't diplomats supposed to be diplomatic? Aren't they supposed to be good communicators? Isn't that part of the job? Diplomatic. And his response is fuck off to Elon Musk and peace. Not a calm and reasoned reply why this won't work and why we're in, what we're trying to do here, but just fuck off. When that came out, I'm like, oh, I know what side I'm on now. These people running Ukraine are trash. They're trash. They don't want peace. They're corrupt. We knew that anyway, right? But now here's someone who made a very reasoned and diplomatic reply, Konstantin Kisin, but he tried to use, he came out and just said, that won't work because he had some other tweets before I read this tweet of his, but he's the guy who's the co-host on Trigonometry, that podcast, which is so good. He's a comedian, and he and this other guy do a podcast, an interview show. And he's Ukrainian immigrant to Britain. And he was explaining kind of why that wouldn't work. And his big idea is that, well, you can't really get to the will of the people in those regions because a lot of those people have fled who live there. They've fled. And there are Russian troops there. So do the Russian troops leave before how do you get the true vote? How do you get a true referendum on whether or not they want to be Russian or Ukrainian? And that's a fair point. But he tried to use this example, and I have something to say about this. So this is something later he said, trying to use an analogy. He said, Alaska must hold a referendum on rejoining Russia to correct the mistake of 1867. A small contingent of Russian troops will help ensure it's fair. What, you disagree? Why are you trying to start nuclear war? We all know America's not a democracy. Look at the 2020 election. Following racist Trump's election by Russia collusion in 2016, the international community must stand together with Mexico's invasion of Texas and California, who are just trying to protect Spanish speakers in these historically Mexican territories. Like, he keeps trying to do these analogies that I don't think prove his point. Because here's the thing, Konstantin. In reality, if we were weaker, Russia could take Alaska and we would just have nothing to say about it. I mean, we could complain and we could try to fight, but if they were stronger than us, and they wanted to do it, what could we do? Right? I mean, this is the world. It's not like some utopia where everybody gets to have this perfect choice about what they live under and who they live under. And it's a tough world. And Ukraine is, until we sent $100 billion, there's no way they could survive a war with Russia without us literally fighting for them, which we're, essentially doing with all of our wealth.
I think if you take his analogy and you said, okay, what if Mexico was massively superior to the United States and they decided to invade, it would be different realistically, because it sounds preposterous as he proposed it. And we would probably look at the world and say, hey, rest of the world, how can you say that Mexico is justified in invading the US? We didn't have a racist election or a fake election, and this is unfair, this is unjust. And we would be right as Americans to oppose Mexico's invasion, just as many Ukrainians are right to oppose Russia's invasion.
Right.
But the reality would be Mexico's invading.
That's the reality.
And if you're Russia over there, or you're a country 10,000 miles away, and all you care about is what's in your own interest, you might say, you know what, US, you might have to let Mexico take some territory, because otherwise here are the consequences in
Right.
reality if you don't.
Right.
And we don't want to piss off the Mexicans, because if, Mexico sells us oil and commodities and everything else, so our interest is really with the Mexicans, and we feel bad for you and we're
Right.
sorry for you,
Right.
but it's kind of not our problem over here, So he's right in the sense that, yes, there's a lot of injustice here,
Yeah.
and there's no perfect solution. And what we're
I think
saying
that's what
is,
I'm trying to say. Injustice is just part of the world. And
don't accept, if you want to fight, fight,
I have
but
to
just don't ask
pause
us
for a
for.
second. I'm getting a call from my daughter's school.
Okay.
Hang on a second. My daughter said her gland has popped out.
Her gland.
Oh my God, it's an emergency. Her gland has popped out.
My glands sometimes pop out. It happens to everybody.
Oh my gosh. She has a
All
sore
right.
throat. But anyway, I knew
Yeah.
that when she went to school. So, okay. So it's a lack of like, what is this? It's utopian thinking again. It's this idea that there's this perfect world. Now, imagine too that we decided, we're really sick of these cartels. We're going to just take over Mexico. And Mexico screams to the international community, they can't do this. We're a sovereign nation. Too bad. Who is going to stop us? Who wants to fuck with the United States, and who's going to stop us?
And that doesn't.
We think it's right. We have our reasons. And, I don't care that Mexico is a sovereign country. We have our reasons. So might makes right sometimes in this cruel, cruel world. I'm not saying it's right. And think about our own revolution too. If it weren't for France, would we have won that?
No.
So we were like, hey, international community, we're trying to throw off the British. Help us, help us. They're authoritarian. Do you think they gave a shit? Do you think the French king gave a crap that the English were authoritarian? The only reason, right? The only reason that we got help was because they wanted to fight Britain.
Yeah.
They wanted to fight them. And so we were an ally in that. And that's the only reason they helped us. So without their help,
they looked at their own interests. They put their own interests and said, oh, geez, it would be a real thorn in the side for the British if we help these Americans, fight off that would be awesome for us. So let's do it.
So if we lost, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Patrick Henry, all those guys were right. They were on the side of right, but they could have still lost. And that would just be, they would have all been killed, right? And we would move on as a British colony until at some point we were able to get independence like other British colonies. At some point we would have achieved it, but maybe not right then. So it is silly to look at geopolitics in the way that Konstantin is looking at it. Like I'm supposed to go, oh my God, yeah, it's Alaska, and that wouldn't be right. Well, we're tougher. So like have at it. Try to get Alaska, Russia. Have at it. It's not going to work.
Right.
And that's the argument for being a tough country, is that you don't get invaded by dictators that you don't want in charge of you.
Yeah. And Ukraine is fighting the Russians, and they're doing a good job of it.
Yeah.
And
And
if someone wants to help, or if someone wants to help them or send them money or whatever, that's your business, but it's not my business.
Right. Right. I look at it more like, they're well, anyway, so that to me.
But is Russia really our enemy? Like that. I keep hearing that, and it's like,
well,
Putin's a bad guy. Okay, but they also sell us cheap gas and cheap commodities.
They rigged the 2016 election with those Jesus arm wrestling memes
I forgot
on Facebook. That is unforgivable.
That $100,000 of Facebook ads. Yeah.
Unforgivable.
But Fortunately, we don't intervene in other countries' elections as Americans, or nor do we invade other
Nor
countries
do we
or
blow up pipelines.
right. No, of course not. Nor do we carpet bomb villages and
The
kill hundreds
Russians
of
are
thousands of
so
civilians.
insane. I mean, they do every bad thing, and every bad thing that happens to us is because of them. So, and every
Right.
bad thing that happens to them, like their pipeline being blown up, is they did it. So,
And when we blow up people in other countries, it's for their own benefit, Sonny. You should know that.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
they want us to blow them up.
We're always the moral people. So, okay. So that's a wake-up call. I think we need to do peace. I don't want to be at war with Russia. I have no beef with them at all. I have no beef with them. I don't see Putin as worse than some guy who runs an African country that we are peaceful with, that we treat with respect. I don't see him as worse than Xi in China, whom we do business with and treat with respect. In fact, I think he's better. I think
Well, they're less of a threat.
he's less of a threat. But also, if I'm Russian, if you say, would you rather have Xi Jinping with his social credit stuff and or would you rather have Putin? I think I'd pick Putin. It's
Well,
kind of
also China's trying to take over the entire world. China's in Africa, they're in South America. They have the second largest economy in the world. They have an enormous military. Russia has none of that, but they sell us cheap commodities and cheap gas, and they fuel Europe's industry. Like he's a bad guy, okay, and he kills his political opponents and he represses people, and but from the standpoint of the United States, like who's a bigger threat here, Russia or China? And yet we're open arms with the Chinese, but Putin's the devil. I mean,
right.
is he going to roll his tanks through Eastern Europe? Don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's really become the boogeyman. And is he like, would I want him for my president? No, I don't want him for president of America. I think he is authoritarian, but is he worse than Biden? He's not worse than Biden.
Well,
So
as the FBI is arresting pro-life supporters and
yeah,
raiding his political opponent's
right.
home.
So how is the only thing that hasn't happened in the US is that we don't know if somebody's died of uranium poisoning yet. We know Putin did some of that,
Yeah,
but
he
we don't
poisons his
we
enemies.
haven't heard if Biden has done that. If Trump dies of polonium poisoning, they'll blame it on Russia.
Because remember, Sonny, U.S. political figures never have their opponents assassinated. It's
Right.
never happened
It's
in
never
the history
happened.
of the United States.
Never happened. Kennedy. Excuse me, I had a frog in my throat. Okay. So Elon Musk, so that was the news one day. You got the poll and it's still going on. It's ongoing, these discussions about, okay, what do you do? And Musk just continues to hey,
What about this?
yeah. And then the other news with him is that he is going to go forward with buying Twitter. I am excited about that.
So good.
And he has said, I think he has said that he's going to end the permanent ban idea. And I believe he's going to let all of these people back on who have been kicked off. That would include like Alex Jones and Trump and hopefully James Lindsay and a lot of other really interesting people who have been kicked off. And then people could be free to express their minds without.
Imagine that.
Yes.
It's horrifying.
Yes.
Terrifying.
It will be incredible to have one of the largest social media platforms be actually free speech. And I mean, they're not going to sit back and take this. If they could bomb his pipeline, they would. Like somehow remember when Parler got really popular and they took it down by taking down its ability to finance it, like get money, like they debanked it and at the same time took down its servers. So I don't know how independent Twitter is. I don't know I don't really know how they make their money advertising, I think, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
who knows? We'll see. We'll see
Well, and
what
all their
happens.
employees have threatened to quit if he takes over, which we can
Good.
only hope for.
Well, they're obviously shitty people, so that would be fine. And he's a great leader. He is a great leader. Whatever you think about his political ideas, um, even his political ideas are definitely left of center. He is not on the right. He is not a libertarian freedom guy. He is a socialist. He's an environmentalist, but he believes in free speech and all, I think he's buddies with, well, he and Peter Thiel was one of his partners in PayPal. So they know each other. Peter Thiel is really hardcore libertarian. So there might
There's
be
hope.
some, yeah, this is exciting. I hope it goes through and we'll see what happens. And now he's talking about turning Twitter into a super social media platform that does everything, like a one-stop shop.
Awesome.
That would really make it beat everybody else too.
How do we have Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, and Kanye, and we feel like we're losing? We can't. And Trump, and
Trump.
DeSantis, and Candace. I mean, we've got
And
so
Carrie
many
Lake.
great people. Carrie Lake, yeah. So I'm getting more optimistic. I think this White Lives Matter thing maybe is a turning point. It's definitely a symbol. It's
I think
symbolic,
we've
isn't it?
already, I think the turning point happened a little bit ago. This is
Yeah.
just more momentum. People are, I think COVID really cracked some heads.
Mhm.
And a lot of people have realized that the government is not our friend. The CDC, the FDA, these are not our friends. Like there's something really rotten in the government. The word has gotten out that these vaccines are dangerous, different things like that. So, and that's only increasing, but also a lot of people are aware of this globalist, this WEF, Klaus Schwab stuff that,
Great reset.
that Bill Gates is an evil guy. Like all this stuff is kind of become understood. And yeah, I think
I feel
that,
like we're kind of in a James Bond movie in a way.
oh,
Like,
also the gender stuff and the sexualizing stuff. Most people have a common sense reaction to that. That is absolutely, they have disgust for that and they feel that that is wrong. So, porn in books in high school, with gay
high
porn
school, it's in the
in
grade
junior
schools.
high.
It's in grade
um
schools.
yeah, everybody knows that's wrong. And so they've sort of jumped the shark, so to speak. They've gone too far. And so it's only a matter now of, do we have the time? They own so much of the power centers that they can silence and take down our side pretty quickly if they just have the will to do it. I mean, they just arrested a guy who's two people because of their abortion ideas, and they raided their political opponent's home, a former president.
Yep.
They've done
Well,
that, and they have, how long has it been? And they still have not shown the American people what it is that he did that warranted that.
yeah, where's the follow-up here? Like, where
There's
is it?
been no explanation.
It's like now we're on to something else.
Now we're arresting pastors who are pro-life activists.
Well,
So
it starts in November. We need to sweep states, state legislatures, governors, the Congress, everything we can get. And,
school
let's
boards,
start there.
yeah,
Yeah, everything.
everything we can get. I don't
Get
think it's
out.
going to make a huge difference federally because that deep state is just too entrenched, and the
You can only
GOP
slow it down.
Yeah, the federal stuff is not where it's at right now. It's at the states. That's where the real achievements are going to be. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I hope. I mean, we'll see probably more people go to Congress that are more vocal and more interesting. But yeah, I think like you said, it's downstream from culture. So what's happening in culture? A lot more people are sticking their neck out. A lot more people are rebelling against this stuff. And the people who aren't are looking sicker and sicker, like Madonna, and like people who don't do it are looking weird and getting creepier, and they keep pushing the boundaries into, oh no, it's perfectly fine if I show my butt on Instagram and like it looks like I want to be effed in the ass and I'm 70 years old. Like that's just weird. Everybody's looking at that and going, you're weird. They're not going, oh, she's so cool, I want to be just like her.
Yeah,
So,
if you're on the side of Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar, like, good luck to you. Godspeed.
well, but are they cool? Like, do they really project cultural dominance? Like, really?
No, that's what I mean.
Or does
I'm saying.
Kanye? I mean, granted, Kim Kardashian and those people still do to some extent, but that is fading. That's fading. When you see Kanye going, I don't think my 8-year-old should have a TikTok. Kim loses credibility coming out and defending that her 8-year-old has a TikTok channel. Like, that's not cool. Anyone with kids is going, oh, that's a little exploitative and she's a little young to be in this game of social media, So, yeah, I think this is really positive stuff. And worst case scenario, we end up with Elon Musk as a king. So
Best case scenario.
Hopefully he has one son that's not autistic. So when it's passed down, we get another normie somewhere in there. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for joining us today. It was a fun episode, and we'll see you next week. I want to know what you want us to talk about. I was going to talk about big tech fascism because there's just been a flood of proof that that's actually real. Also, social emotional learning. I want to do a show on that, but maybe we just do more current issues. Let us know in the comments what you want to hear us talk about or ask us questions. Oh yeah, there's so much royal news. I didn't even touch on it.
Stop.
We'll do a royal report next week. All right, see you next week, everybody.
It's been the demise of bad ideas, and we'll know what's right when she's done. So download this free podcast now and give perspectives you may lack. It's concise and right and achieves world peace, guaranteed all your money back. Last time, ready?